Hello, hi, welcome. I'm Symbiosis, and welcome to the third and final part in the Honest Thoughts on Gavv. If you haven't seen the other two parts, I'll put a link to them down in the description below, as well as with a playlist on all the other Honest Thoughts, as well as having a card up in the corner. So this is it. Gavv has finally finished airing, and Zets is about to air any day now. Knowing me, it's probably going to start airing before I upload this video, but in my defense, life's a bitch, and I got distracted. Anywho, let's get the negative out of the way. Don't worry, there's not a lot. I was particularly disappointed in the execution of the Gel Dog family. It just felt like everything they did, you could very easily tweak to come from someone else, like Gavv or Longo or even Glota, I would guess, to like a couple of things. Or even Jeeb, and we'll get to the issues I have with Jeeb. It just felt like an unnecessary layer to things, and especially when it comes to the president, to Boca. Is it Boca? Boca. That's gonna annoy me, and no one is gonna understand why it annoys me, so I need to explain it. So, Boca sounds like Boca, and when I hear that, I think of the Leon Schuster song, Here Come Boca. And no one is gonna get that, besides maybe like a handful of people that I can, and I'm gonna be genuinely surprised if it's more than one, including myself. So, like, I hear that and I'm just... That's annoying me. It's almost as annoying as trying to have a conversation about Persona and then I mix up Yosuke and Yusuke. Like... Anyway, yeah, Boca kind of felt like... He just felt unnecessary. He felt like, almost like someone's OC. He's just kind of like, oh, and this guy, he's really cool and all-powerful, and he's the president, and he has this super ability where he can command people to do stuff. It felt like he really didn't add much, and yeah, like I said earlier, like everything he did, you could easily tweak to being like, okay, Longo, because he's the president of this company who has so much pull with the dog treats, he could have easily wormed his way up to like the aristocrats or something, or have like any of the devices be from like Gavv, which he already does anyway. You know, any kind of like feats of like strength, you just have it be Glota or like again or Jeeb. I'll get to him later. And don't get me wrong, it was kind of cool seeing him and Lizelle. I guess it really is more of just like a shit on Boca, because Lizelle also kind of to an extent does that as well. I should also say their characters are kind of, I don't know, flat. You know, it's just kind of like, oh, they're like the haughty, rich aristocrat types, and nothing much else. Yeah, Boca wants to be president forever, but that kind of like power-hungry thing already exists with the Stomach family, and there was so much more of a dynamic going on there. Even with like the characters, you know, you had the things going on with Glota and Luckin, and I don't know why it took me so long to remember his name, and might as well just say I totally called that Glota was the one that killed Como. Even though it was kind of obvious, but anyway. Yeah, no, just every other member had a much more interpersonal reason for hating the protagonist or hating the other Kamen Riders. Which, speaking of, another thing I disliked was... Well, I wouldn't say dislike, I'm kind of mixed on it, is Hanto being the one to kill Jeeb. Now, I get Hanto should have been the one to kill like a member of the Stomach family. Although I personally think it should have been Gavv, because Gavv was the most connected to Hanto, with just him teaming up with Suga and just using his reanimated corpse basically, and all the experiments. It made sense for Gavv to be taken out by Hanto, especially, you know, looking back on those older episodes. I believe Gavv fought with Hanto the most. And then you also got that thing later on where Hanto then gets possessed by, you know, this reanimated Suga, which is following Gavv's orders. So, but like the reason I'm mixed on it, because, I'm not gonna lie, Gavv just blowing up, my jaw dropped. I was just like, oh shit. It was that and Longo facing off against Boca in the beginning. Like that was cool. Like that was hype, and then just like impaling him when he was least expected it. But anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, I was kind of mixed on Jeeb's death, because I really liked how it ended. Just Jeeb then being the Sheeta for Lizelle. And I'm curious to see what they do with Lizelle going forward, because I did see some stuff about a potential special where Hanto's going to get a new form, with I think a cape. I don't want it to sound like I hate the ending, because I actually do really like the ending. the whole Lakian destroying the doors and then being stuck in the Granute world with only one of his Gochizos. God, that was a bittersweet moment. I'm glad they didn't kill him off. I don't know, I liked him too much. I'm not familiar with a lot of tertiary writers, but he's definitely my favorite so far. I think another negative I have was I wish we got the emotional closure of Shoma and... I'm forgetting everything's names. Misaru? The shop owner, like the sweet shops. Because, take it from his perspective. Your sister goes missing for 20 years. Your parents die due to just the sheer anxiety of your sister being missing. You hold out all this hope, and then not only do you find out what happened to her and that she is dead, but that she had a kid. And this kid is like someone you've met and interacted with, and they turn out to be essentially a superhero while also being like half monster and all this other stuff. And it's like, I really wish we got to see that on screen instead of it just being like oh, you jump to 3 months later and it's all taken care of off screen. God, this really is just sounding like me shitting on the ending again. No, but other than that, I actually really liked the ending, despite me ragging on these few things. But it's just that. I really liked the... Oh, actually, there's one more thing. I fucking hate Amazing Gavv. Or, like, was it Amazing Gummy? It's dumb. It's dumb. Like, I would have liked a fire form. I think that would have been cool. But it goes back to what I'm saying of there just being like an unnecessary layer added with the Geldog family. It's just like, you made Boka so overwhelmingly strong that you kind of needed to give him a new form in order to overcome it. And it's like, this form comes from his burning desire, and he can withstand the command thing because he radiates so much heat? Like, what? It's dumb. It doesn't make sense. And it sucks because I feel like it could have worked. I feel like that would have been really cool to have like a fire-based form. I think the idea of it being so hot that him just merely touching things causes it to melt, that's really cool for a form. And actually, speaking of forms, I really, really like the final form over Monster. I like how the primary colors of Gavv, being orange and purple, and to an extent blue, is, what's the right word? Supplemented? Implemented? Basically, like, Overform being strength-based and being primarily orange and yellows is a great way to counteract the monster form being primarily speed-focused, which is purple and blue. But they have a little bit of each other's colors. It creates this really interesting dynamic with the super form. Instead of it just being this like all-powerful form that kind of makes all the other forms obsolete, there's this drawback to it, of it being like, okay, you need 100 Gochizos to make this form, as well as it being you have to manually switch, but it also makes the fight so much more interesting and adds a little layer to it that isn't unnecessary, of just being like, okay, use the speed form, and then when getting close, then you swap to the strength form, and just having the Gochizo itself not only be the bottle, but kind of like open up to this face that you can flip around to show a different face. Like, it's really, really clever, and it's really cool, which is also kind of why I think Amazing Gummy is just so dumb in comparison. Anyway, I think a character I didn't bring up in part 2, I brushed upon them earlier, well not earlier, in part 1, was Sachika. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I expected her to be the tertiary writer, but I'm kind of glad she wasn't. I think her dynamic as kind of like this recon, almost Oracle type character for, what was the term they used? Granute Hunters? I think worked really well in kind of making her own character with her own dynamic with the rest of the group. And there's this kind of interesting little pattern that goes on where you've got, on one end you've got Lakian, who is completely Granute, and then you got Hanto, who's completely human, and then you got Shoma, who's a mix of them, and is like right in the middle. So to kind of have her be like, show up to be a new writer just for the sake of having more writers, it was just kind of, I'm kind of glad they didn't do that. And then instead they were like, you know, she's not just there, she actually is out collecting information. She's out like researching stuff. She's using her connections, which makes sense because, you know, she's running a business. She has a bunch of clientele. She would realistically have a bunch of connections and good communication skills. So yeah, I feel like it was very easy for her to kind of just fall behind the wayside, but I'm glad they gave her enough attention without kind of just making her feel almost like a token character. Like, oh, we've got to have like this person be like this thing so we can fill out the checkbox. It's just kind of like, no, they're playing an important role. while not necessarily being on the field. Alright, I've got to mention Jeeb. I'm so mixed on Jeeb, because I was expecting Jeeb to die with Sheeta at episode 14 when they introduced Cake King, and then they keep Jeeb alive, and it's like, okay, that's really interesting. I really want to see where this goes. And you see him go through this depressive episode. He gets picked up by Lizelle, and then ends up becoming essentially the owner of Stomach Inc. And that's really cool. And I wanted to see what more they would do with that. And then he's just in the background. You know, like he gets the Black Gavv, he becomes a Kamen Rider, and he's in, I think at most, what was it, like 4 fights? I could be wrong on that, but it's like a few fights, and then is just kind of there. And then you've just kind of got like Boca being the main villain, and then you've got Lizelle being, you know, kind of like the evil princess archetype, and you got Gavv being like the evil scientist, and it's like, well, what was the point in bringing him back? And again, like the issue I had with Hanto being the one to get, I really think it should have been Shoma. It really was leading up to Jeep wants his revenge on Shoma. I don't know, I would definitely move a few things around that. I actually really did like the fact that they introduced Zetz into the very last episode instead of like a special. Because I'm gonna be honest, this is my first Reiwa season. I'm so used to Heisei Phase 2, where it's just like it's in a special and they kind of show up and they have like a little fight scene. I like how this one, he shows up, you don't really see the suit yet, they don't really see them fighting, but it brings enough of an intrigue, and it's right in the last episode. But yeah, that final fight between Shoma and Longo, just swapping through all the forms, oh my god, I love that. I think that's so cool. Just cycling through not just like the super forms, but you have like those like standard forms you saw in the first couple episodes, and hell, even the quad bike shows up. You know, it got to the point where it was used as like a big Gatling gun for the hard candy form, and then nope, just there's the quad bike, and then it just turns into like the motorcycle, and yeah, no, that fight was awesome. I'm not gonna lie, I've just been sitting in silence for the past couple minutes thinking about what to say next, and yeah, I really liked the villains. Stomach Inc. specifically, just having this complex dynamic with Shoma. You know, this whole like obsession with keeping the family safe, not just with Sheeta and G, but with Glotsa, just having this kind of complex to her, to the point where she would then go out and kill Dente, and then Dente and to an extent Shoma kind of having this adopted family with Sachika, with Lakia, with Hanto, and then Stomach kind of being, Glotsa just kind of being blinded to how, like, yes, she's strong, but her actions are also inadvertently tearing apart what is also technically her family, and then even killing them. Jeep's desire for revenge kind of, for the most part, blinding him to turn on his family, and then just be with Lizelle, and then end up kind of realizing what's really important, and then pulling a Sheeta for Lizelle. Gavv kind of being, you know, this mad scientist who seems very like selfish and self-centered and doing whatever he can, realizing that actually he deeply cared for his family. You know, he fucking hates the gel ducks and wants it back in control of the stomachs, and even freed Shoma. Longo, you know, just kind of faking his death in order to kind of work in the shadows in order to kind of like regain the throne, and then just having that big climactic fight, just the fact that he's always hated Shoma and just his dad for taking what he believes was, you know, their birthright. I'm gonna be honest, a lot of tokusatsu music is good. Like, I genuinely believe there isn't a bad tokusatsu song, and I will argue that, even though I haven't seen if I haven't heard of all of it, but like in particular, Shake It Off, ooh, that is such a bop. When you saw Lakia's form and that music started playing, I was just like, ooh. I'll be honest, I've actually struggled to think of what else to say, so I guess I'll end it here. Overall thoughts? This is really good. I've been seeing around saying this is a peak Reiwa, so I imagine it's all downhill from here. But hey, this season, it really gives me the reason why I want to talk about Kamen Rider so much, why I wanted to make this channel. It's just like, hey, I thought this stuff was really fucking awesome, I wanted to talk about it, and just be like, wow, this is so cool, and look at that, and look at this, and oh my god, and I can just sit here and vomit up some words. Yeah, here's my little outlet for that. So, if you like hearing me ramble, or like the more scripted, structured stuff, don't forget to leave a like, and please subscribe. I think it's like 20 something subs away from 1,000, and I really want to get there as soon as possible, like before the end of the month. I promise I will shut the fuck up once I hit 1,000 subs. I'll probably do like a dedicated video, like a Q&A or something, but just anything, I don't know. If we get there in like 2 weeks, I don't know, I'll do like a foot reveal or something. I don't know, I'm desperate here. I'm desperate. But yeah. Will I do this same kind of format for Zets? I don't know, that depends on how good the show is, or how good I feel it is. But other than that, yeah, I appreciate you all for watching, and yeah, thanks for hanging out.